But okay, fellas. Talking about Mbappe, we're talking about Mbappe is a '90s kid, right? There's a quote online that we saw. This man. Should I read the whole thing or should I just summarize him?
Read it. Yeah.
So one of the podcast fellas out in UK, he was like, I've noticed people born in the 80s have dominated most sports for so long that now the 2000 kids are taking over. Patrick Mahomes is the only 90s baby that has arguably dominated sports. Many 90s baby failed to live up to their potential. Take football, for example. We relied on Hazard, Neymar's, Balotelli's, Pogba's to take over from the 80s stars. You can argue they were all finished by 30. It's the 2000 ballers who are taking over from the Messi and Ronaldo era. Haaland is probably going to win the Ballon d'Or, who is born in 2000. Not a single player born in 1990s has won the award. Why did the 90s babies fail to dominate?
So you speak first, because I feel like your opinion is going to be polar to
what you guys have to say. Well, really, I don't think he's necessarily off base when we look at 90s babies. And yes, we can say for football, at least I'll speak for football. We can say the Ronaldo Messi era kind of dominated everybody, and there was nothing you could come out of with it, right? But I mean, we've seen this time and time again in history, where one generation seems to be, or one age group seems to be more like passionate about reaching whatever they need to reach with all their circumstances and achieve it, versus the other. Think of the Maradona era. There were so many greats that came out of that era. Maradona, what's his face? Maldini's coming out of that era. And these guys stayed for years and years and years, right? So like the 70s babies dominated. 80s babies came along. We got our Ronaldos, we got our Ibras, we got our Messis, we got these guys Rooney's who dominated for long periods and stayed dominating. And then now we get Hazard. Remember, I don't know if you guys remember, in 2011, Mamadou Sakho, the one that played at Crystal Palace and Liverpool, was like the next big centre back thing. What happened? Götze, the next big midfield thing. What happened? Like there's so many names we can think of. Even Royce. I don't even know if Royce is 90s or end of 80s, but he came out with that age group and we're like, Royce is going to be something. What happened? Andre Schürrle. I can go on and on about different players that never really reached that potential we expected from them. But then now you see with this 2000s, and I think we're a bit naive saying 2000 babies are ruling and taking over the mantle because we are seeing the other group retire while this group is still coming up and we're still feeling their hype. We'll only know in a couple years, but right now, 90s babies are not taking any mantle.
I mean, okay, let me just talk. I feel like it's just a bias or recency thing because people are just looking at, look at Haaland. Because he said this after today's Wimbledon. This kid Alcaraz, he won against Novak.
Oh, really?
That's where he quoted this from. But the 90s kids, they had a tough hand. You cannot denounce the Messi and Ronaldo era. Those guys, the longevity, you don't see like 15 years. That has not been seen in football. That was like an anomaly.
Both of them going head to head has not been seen in football.
No, 15 years like that.
Everything they achieved, there's
two players.
That's what I'm saying. Both of them going like that.
That's not been seen. So like all these other players, which player has been dominating, like winning Ballon d'Ors for 15 years?
Well, we're not talking about just Ballon d'Ors.
Which player has been winning
trophies, everything that they've been winning?
The best player of the year after year for 15 years.
No one really. That's not the point I'm making.
Okay then.
But the point I'm making
Let me go. So like all these
this
stars, like even the records. Now a player must score 50 goals a season to have a good season. That was never heard of before. Like 60 goals a season. Players back then was scoring like 10 goals, 15 goals a season. Everyone's like, oh wow, what a great season. I remember
20 being a hard number to reach. Like, wow, 20 goals.
So that cannot be ignored. But I also want to bring up some players who were born in the in the 90s. Kevin De Bruyne, 1991. Mohamed Salah, 1992. Mbappe, 98. Those are just a few. Okay. Hazard too is a 90s baby.
Hazard's 90s failed.
What do you mean Hazard is failed?
He didn't reach his potential.
Hazard reached his potential in Chelsea.
The points we're making is not did this player
you can say longevity.
Did you reach your potential? Not longevity.
Hazard won the Premier League. Did he win the Champions League? I'm not sure.
He didn't win the Champions League.
But he failed in Madrid, right? That transfer failed. But that transfer, he was like, how old was he? Probably like 29.
29 is in his prime.
But then
And that's the
he
point
done
he's
bits.
making.
He done bits in his time. So I just the only thing I would give the '90s kids maybe were not as hungry, and that's something I can fault with this generation. Like the '80s, sorry, Ronaldo and Messi, their hunger is just like immeasurable. So and there was a lot of like changes even in society, even like the new advances with like technology. That may have taken away some of the focus from these kids. I don't.
Why are we making excuses for these kids?
No, for real.
What it sounds like to me is like you're saying I don't want to agree with your point because it's too harsh. But
I'm not saying it's no. I don't agree with the point.
this is this.
I'm gonna take away from the whole 80s thing because I'm not sure what kind of bias it is, but I'm just gonna say that if you could pull up the names that you want to pull up over the 80s people, right? Those guys, oh my bad, those people in that line or whatever were still dominated by two people in soccer if we're talking.
Oh yeah.
Or you could go to basketball
True.
and you can talk
LeBron,
about LeBron, right?
LeBron,
One
yeah,
person.
no, agreed.
So it means every other generation before that we can call failures and after them.
Agreed.
But it's nothing special to the 80s, it's just the individuals. Things lined up for them and they were hungry and it just clicked for them.
And
but I don't think it's anything to do with a timeline or like, oh, the 90s are failures or the 70s are failures.
And I agree with you to that degree, right? The part where our points go apart is the fact that those people who stood out were from those times. The people in these generations before them that stood out were pioneers of what they were standing out for. For instance, Alfredo Di Stefano was the first player in Spain to score. I think he had a game with double digits or some crap like that. Like he has some unrealistic.
But do you not think that with time it's going to be hard to be a pioneer?
No, and that's the point.
You know what I mean?
It's going to be hard to be a pioneer,
Yeah.
but your job as the next generation is to surpass the current generation. Think about the hunger, right? We look at people like the generation right before Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi started taking over.
Who was better than
Ronaldo's,
them?
Ronaldinho's, Ronaldo de Lima, those kids were coming out at 19 and winning the Ballon d'Or. Michael Owen won the Ballon d'Or at 19.
Yeah.
So you're seeing a generation before them that's coming and they're hungry as hell. And then the kids after come in and go, damn, we gotta work even harder. But then the 90s kids that come after Ronaldo Messi see Ronaldo Messi dominating and think, oh, they're already doing too great, and they stop.
It wasn't that,
I
bro.
wouldn't even-
It wasn't
I
that.
wouldn't attribute it to that.
This kid didn't stop. It was just hard. Like Neymar should have won the Ballon d'Or like 2015, but
Born in
didn't.
the wrong time.
You think forget wrong time, because I do believe there are certain things that work out with your time. Like if Neymar was born in America in 1950,
No Messi or no
couldn't do crap.
Ronaldo, the boy has a Ballon d'Or.
He has
At the very
he's
least
a
one.
quality player.
Yeah.
But isn't that your place now as an athlete? And we have this conversation a lot when we do the Rooney Ronaldo arguments and the Schneider arguments.
Yeah.
It's your responsibility as an athlete to go, I'm the next generation, I look up to these two, I need to surpass them. I need to make them look insignificant.
Nah, I
And
think
that's
it's
what you
just
see with
one
the
of a,
Haalands and the... Why do you think Haaland's game
it's
is so
one of
simple?
a kind though. Like I feel like it's unfair to use, because there's Messi, Ronaldo, and LeBron on there. It's unfair to use these people as faces because they're such a
Anomaly.
yeah, bro. Like it's a once
not
in a
everyday
lifetime
thing.
thing. The whole timeline. Because if we look, we remove them. We look at everybody else. Everybody else kind of looks average or like within
No,
reach.
agreed,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? So yeah, it so happened that they were born in the 80s, but like it is unfair to use them as like, oh, they were hungry here.
But how many of those can you find in the 90s?
Just
pull out
probably
a
just
lot
as
of
much
them
as
that
the
were born in
80s. That's what I'm
80s.
gonna say.
That we
Wait,
can
that
say are
thing-
standout stars.
I think I have to say is it's a mentality thing. Like think of the time when if you're growing up in the 80s, how bad like society was, how bad like growing up was, like situation. You were growing up, Messi growing up in Argentina, Ronaldo growing up poor as hell. Like he's like, I need to get out of this. Like so the circumstantial. Even LeBron grew up in nothing, and he had to fight from nothing. So there's some of these players like Mbappe, you can tell he didn't grow up like hungry.
Sure.
Even Marcus Rashford tries to make a case like he was struggling. I'm like, come on, bro. Like you went to an academy.
Yeah.
Like you were
How
fine.
struggling can struggle be?
Like,
And then
but
also
then-
it's a quick way to cash too.
so that doesn't help that these kids didn't go through like real like trouble. I like real shit. Like they didn't go through like the darkest time. So like Vinicius went through some shit, and you can tell like the way he's playing.
You
He's
can tell
playing.
with the
He's
attitude,
playing
yeah.
with like a little kick in his game.
And maybe that's, I don't know if that's the point he's making, and maybe that's where the bias is that you guys were trying to define is. is the cultural bias. Because there is that factor of like when you watch Ronaldo, Messi young age, they were hungry.
They were
as hell.
hungry. Like they wanted
Hungry as
to.
hell.
Anybody in front of them, they were like, "I'm coming for you.
Literally,
I'm coming
bro.
for you." Ronaldo said he was the best player at 19. He's like, "Yeah, I am the best,
Yes.
and I want to be."
He even said it again. Remember after we won the treble 2008, the fake treble?
Yeah.
They asked him, Anderson and Rio and Anderson said Maradona and Ronaldo said me. And they all laughed. It was like, oh, no, I'm dead
Yeah.
serious. It's me, baby.
So like,
It is tough, but then I don't know, to negate, because the point that this guy is trying to drive home is that like 90s are a failed generation, saying that like they didn't really achieve anything, but like saying potential, that's a safe word. But I think we just have the same amount good players, maybe like less hunger, of course. And then granted that like now with soccer and the money, you don't have to be that special to get
don't,
paid.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas like maybe back then you had to
Yeah.
really be something for
Like-
you too. So
Oh, yeah.
even think about our coach in college. The way he said, like, if when you're going to tryouts, players were
Dog,
trying to
dog.
kill you, bro. In the field, like, I don't think players are kicking you like
No.
to get ahead. But think about the hunger back then. Like, it's either you get this, there's no other option.
Wasn't there like
That's true.
an old guy that a Manchester United old head that was like, oh, in a derby we never used to hug after the game.
Roy Keane,
and now
Roy
they-
Keane,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, no.
It's
I mean,
different, bruv.
dude,
So, culture definitely influenced some
the
of
culture does, and I ain't gonna lie to you. To some degree, and maybe I'm gonna sound like that old and annoying.
You already do. Keep going.
But to some degree, it takes away from the part of the beauty of football. Because part of it was you got into the freaking tunnel.
Yeah.
Roy Keane and Vieira are fighting. And you're like, dude, these guys are like in a war. Or when Schmeichel went to City, if you see the video of Schmeichel and Gary Neville,
Haaland's dad too.
Haaland's dad and Roy
video
Keane,
of that
that-
stuff, bro. It's just
bro,
crazy.
like there was some like some passion to it with it. I don't know. I can't find the word for it, but there was some passion to it. But nowadays, you just see after the game, Maguire,
No.
bro, they just wiped you 6-1. You're hugging John Stones.
Rashford is training forward.
I mean, bro,
Cute little moment.
yeah, like what are we doing? Hugging? No, go kill him. Go like that's what we want to see. Like there was this warrior part to football, and I think part of the drop in stardom is cultural. Where there's no more warriors, and they may still be as good players, but because there's no more warriors, people don't want to like. That's why Mbappe and Haaland, who are very regular mentality-wise in the previous generations, seem like they're so elite.
Yeah.
Because everyone else is just like, yeah, dude,
Strange.
best friend,
It's the thing-
football friend. No, bro.
It's a cultural shift, right? Because that hunger, you can say there was there was no limit to it, but maybe it could get toxic in a way. Now society is like, okay, let's
Not
treat
even
each
a
other.
quote, it did.
It did get toxic.
Let's
Nah,
make
it
that
did get toxic.
It did. It was toxic.
Trying to be political.
Nah, I know. Don't get cancelled, but
Hey, I'm
it
trying to
was
be the
pretty toxic. Like Roy Keane is the epitome of toxicity sometimes, but you know.
So like this society, this generation, is like trying to find a balance now with that. So this is like what you call the byproduct of that. Like
But don't you think we swung too far?
we could argue that. We could argue, but we did talk about this that it's gonna find an average. It's
True,
gonna
it's gonna kind of swing a little
Swing,
bit and
yeah.
find its spot.
Yeah.
Which I guess is just hard for me to take because I've
You
grew
grew
up
up-
with
yeah,
that
look
dream
like-
of like intensity.
This thing has been slowly happening though, even like with the change of football. We've talked about this where we're like the rawness of the sport. Like now it's too tech and clean and
Yeah.
you know money and
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
even the
fame,
games,
whatever.
like,
Yeah, it's just different.
what was it? Like, what's the World Cup? You can tell, like, it's very educated. Like, okay, let's play this, and then we'll find a cross, or maybe we'll.
Extra time
that's-
going into it. Messi and Mbappe were holding hands.
Yeah, like bro.
So it's like
And that's fine and all, right? Like you guys said, we need to find a balance. You don't want it to be too toxic, but at the same time, come on. Like you didn't go to the Roman circus. If you were born in like old Greek days or old Roman days, you weren't going to the circus to go watch them hug the lions. You were going to see if the lion would kill the gladiator, bro.
Gladiators, bro. Imagine that age.
Imagine that age and you see the guy petting the lion. Nah, fight, bro. Fight. And not to say like, and I know that comes out weird. Obviously, there's elements of joke with this. Not to say that we are going out to go watch them kill each other.
Yeah.
But we want to see competition. That's what sport is still. That's the beauty of it, is that you can compete and still be gentlemanly at the same time. Like
Those fellas weren't though back then. You know.
they were- Hey, at least they wore suits.
That's true. It's just, I mean, yeah, it's just the evolution and the difference in times, and maybe it's gonna eventually get back there one day. But times have changed, man. It's different, and you just gotta change with the times.
Change with the times,
What are
yeah.
you gonna do?
I think there is some element that will come where we find a balance. Because you see it with some of the new kids.
Even talking about basketball, because he brought up LeBron. If you think of MJ's mentality and LeBron's mentality, big difference. So,
And even when you look in the middle between them, like Kobe
Kobe was
completely
hungry as
different.
hell. Like Kobe would eat you out.
That was toxic hunger. I don't know what happened to that man, but he needed therapy. The way that he was hungry.
Bro.
But imagine
But
he came up with MJ as one of the greats, so he had to.
Yeah, he had to.
It's
ride
to
with that,
get
you know?
there. You know what I mean?
And I mean, basketball. Do you really even see that anymore? Basketball. Maybe
Steph
you could say
is
Steph has
going
that
one,
bit.
but it's I don't
But
think
Steph
it's
is
hunger.
still
It's just like
a nice guy too.
He's just
really
good.
good
He's
in his
really
craft.
good. Yeah.
But there is the hunger. Like I've seen people talking about Stephen, like the amount of work he puts in.
No, a
his
ton of
body,
work.
all those little techie works. But then I'm wondering if the evolution is just everyone's like, let's just become very competent, but without the attitude. But part of being the competency is the attitude, man.
Yeah, no, they're gonna work in the gym. I don't doubt. Like, I think all of these teams, they train hard. Like, they train, and everybody puts in the time. It's just that when we come out in the pitch, we're gonna give you a rose and say, "Have a good game, sir," and then play.
Might as well hug and kiss.
Yeah, and then go clubbing out. You know, after as rivals.
This is the last question I ask you. As players, tell me, we go all three of us, we've played on the same team before. Would you rather have a team that keeps going, oh yeah, I'm lucky, dude, no, you don't have to win the ball back, or a team that goes, yo, bro,
get your shit together.
You get your shit together. You didn't, last game, this defender had you in his pocket, you were absolute dog crap. What can you do? That makes you want to, like, next game, I gotta score a hat trick now.
Yeah, I mean, it builds toughness. And I feel like that's good even for in game because players gonna talk crap to you.
Yeah.
And if you're used to being like, I don't know, caressed, and when you go into the real world, bro, people are walking over you.
Unfortunately, I mean, you can kind of semi-see it. It's all be sensitive, but you can kind of semi-see it with the interaction between players and the fans. Where back in the day, they would say whatever they want, and then it's
Just
not
move on.
a big deal. But now, like, a player will walk off or like cry or something. You're like, my man, they're not gonna stop talking. You know what I mean? The monkey chats are not gonna stop.
You mentioned that. No, okay, for real. Do y'all remember Balotelli's rise? Like from Inter days, Balotelli was meant to be that guy.
Yep.
And then up until some point,
They broke
They broke this man's spirit. But a player like Eto'o, you tell me Eto'o didn't get the same
I'm
shit?
sure it was going through some stuff.
I
Yeah,
was going through some stuff. I remember the French national team. Bro, even Zidane did national team. Zidane has literally even said, I win, I'm French. I lose, I'm Algerian. Same thing with Evra. I win, I'm French. I
now
lose,
his
I'm
guys
Senegalese.
was definitely more mentally tough.
They took that
that's,
thing now.
That's one thing that frustrates me about Vini. I feel like it's so easy to get into Vini's
I was
head.
about to say
Yeah,
that's
with the
why
dancing stuff, like,
like,
bro, just play. Like,
Yeah.
the more you mess them up and dance in front of them, then they know.
Just
Shut
score,
up.
bro. Just score.
Facts, bro.
Assist, you know what I mean?
I mean, after a while, people had to take it with Ronaldinho. I'm pretty sure early
What are
days
you gonna
Ronaldinho,
do?
they didn't want to. Ronaldinho, Ronaldo de Lima. At some point,
Even
you just
Dani
gotta
Alves were throwing stuff. Dani Alves was throwing bananas. and
Banana,
stuff.
banana.
But it's okay.
Is it eat
With
that
the
shit?
cross, and then it was a goal that
Two 1-2s with Messi. Score.
Yeah.
What you gonna
Bro,
do?
come on. That I miss that kind of response to things. Now I'm gonna go on Instagram and put the whole message.
Yeah.
Rashford after bad games, like, yeah, I'm so sorry, guys. I
I'll come
love
back
you.
stronger. No, I love you, Rashford, but come on, we need that dog, bro.
Show me on the pitch.
A whole lot less interviews about problems and stuff. So
With Rashford, this
like, we didn't know about players' problems. I'm just saying we didn't know a whole lot about a player outside of the pitch.
That's fair.
Things
That's
have
fair.
changed.
And I mean to that point, there is United's podcast. Some players come on and talk about this, and what's his face, Brian Robson, one of our greatest legends, right? He was talking about back in the day, and they're like, "Did you have a nice car when you signed for United?" He's like, "Nah, dude. Literally, his coach at whatever club told him, oh, now you can go talk to United about your contracts with them." He was about to leave with the club car. You're like, "What are you doing with those keys?"
Damn.
Drop it back. Go find your way to Manchester and figure that shit out if you want to leave. But like that's the thing. It's like nowadays with all the marketing and the media and everything, your
Staging.
life is everywhere,
Yeah.
bro.
Yeah.
So it's
Stop,
hard.
everything's just like so sensitive. I feel like there should be a sort of balance, whatever. But like, it's gone pretty soft. I just gotta say.
It has, but to some degree, there's also too much access to your life. Like imagine you see the Messi thing in Miami, where he's in a grocery store with his family and they're coming take pictures. He's trying to get out of there.
You should know, bro. Why would you just go there with no security?
I think the Americans convinced him that like it wouldn't be a
fine.
big deal.
No one would notice it.
Messi.
There are people
Messi,
downplaying his fame, saying Tom Brady or like all these guys.
Yeah,
are
no,
famous.
it's
And I'm like,
it's different level, bro.
There were people even trying to push a narrative that Messi went into the store, nobody noticed it.
yeah, I'm like,
And they just took a bit of that video.
Yeah, I see that.
like, my man, come on now.
Everybody knows.
Wherever it goes.
Come on.
Even on the road, you notice cops followed him because I mean he had to have someone at least detailing.
Dude, they tried. They really tried to push that narrative. So come on.
But yeah, no, let's wrap it up at that, y'all. You guys tell us how you feel. The Dele Alli situation, the transfers, how we feel about the players, the 90s babies, bro. Somebody stand up for the 90s babies.
Bro, what are you
We can't be
talking
failures. We got Neymar, De Bruyne, Salah,
De Bruyne,
Mbappe,
let's be up there.
Hazard.
Neymar is
Hazard
the top goal scorer in
and
Brazil of
Neymar,
all
yeah.
time, over Pele. So
I'm
that
not
like, you can't-
disputing that.
Ballon d'Or, let's.
They did well.
I
I'm
don't
just
know how
saying
we got
they
that.
have
That's
the
crazy.
superstar.
Over Pele, but
No.
no one done it because
Because-
Pele was
Oh.
scoring for fun, bro.
Yeah, I know that, but like, man, on the caps, like he actually, if you look at his track record, like he averages maybe a goal in every Brazil.
Yes.
Yeah.
And think about football now. With technology, football is a little bit easier. Then you're wearing wooden studs with
Nobody-
leather ball that barely moves.
Pele, that's
You
better
know,
than
they say you play
1,000
with
goals, bro.
computers. Hey man, you wanna play in the World Cup?
But remember, when you play, what's something that happens if you go just play random street pickup?
Might get kicked.
You might get kicked, you might break your leg. So playing carpenters is not as easy as we all put it out to be. That man never come for your legs.
I also don't know how he done that, but I mean, I like when you look at his stats look right. It's
Yeah.
just that the Ballon d'Or.
Ballon d'Or is
When you talk about that conversation,
Yeah,
yeah,
what
he's not
happened?
going anywhere.
But yeah, let us know what you think. We talked a lot about a lot of stuff in this show. But yeah, comment, like, subscribe, and there's more content coming out. Look out. We out.
Peace.
Ooh.